Why do we always trust the wrong people? Like genuinely. The most dangerous people we have ever watched in every story were never the obvious villains. They were always the person that we rooted for, the person that we always defended, and the person that we said, okay, I know that they kind of did that, but I still like them. So today we are breaking down the specific psychological manipulation tactics used by 4 characters we almost completely trusted. And by the end of this video, you are going to be able to spot these in real life, which might be a little bit uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. Okay, before we get into the characters, what is psychological manipulation actually? Because we throw this word around so much that it has lost its clinical meaning. Psychological manipulation is when someone uses your vulnerabilities and weaknesses against you to achieve a particular goal, usually control. And what makes it so dangerous is that it is subtle. Manipulators do not announce themselves. They study you first. They identify what you need: love, validation, security, belonging, and then they give you just enough of it to keep you exactly where they want you. The reason you never saw it coming with these characters is not because you were naive. It is because they were strategic. And there is a very big difference between those two things. Okay, Joe Goldberg first, and I need us to be honest. He defended this man while he was stalking and murdering people. And the reason we did is one of the most well-documented psychological manipulation tactics that exists, and that is love bombing. Love bombing is when someone overwhelms you with affection, attention, and devotion so early and so intensely that your brain bonds to them before your rational thinking has had time to evaluate whether they are actually safe. Joe does not just like his targets. He studies them first, their fears, their wounds, their favorite books, their deepest needs. And then he shows up as the exact person those wounds have been waiting for. And here is the neuroscience. When someone makes you feel deeply seen, your brain releases oxytocin and dopamine simultaneously. You become neurologically bonded before your logical brain catches up. The love bombing creates an attachment so fast and so intense that by the time the red flags appear, you are already too emotionally invested to leave. And the most chilling part? Joe genuinely believes he loves his victims. He has convinced himself first, which makes him infinitely more dangerous than someone who knows they are manipulating, because you cannot reason with someone who believes their own lie. Petyr Baelish, also known as Little Finger, and this man literally started with almost nothing. No army, no money, no tactics, no title, and almost took over the entire kingdom of Westeros using nothing but manipulation, and we watched him for 8 seasons straight and called him clever. Petyr's specific tactic is called Machiavellian manipulation, named after the philosopher Machiavelli, who has famously argued that power justifies any means necessary, and it works through 3 things simultaneously: information control, manufactured alliances, and strategic deception. Petyr knows everything about everyone, and knowledge is power in its purest form. He never uses information directly. He uses it to position people against each other while he stays perfectly neutral in the middle. He creates chaos and then offers himself as a solution. He manufactures crises and then rescues people from them. Every single relationship he builds is transactional. Every alliance serves a purpose, and the moment it stops serving that purpose, he dissolves it without hesitation. What makes Petyr so psychologically fascinating is that he operates entirely without ego. Most manipulators eventually get caught because their ego makes them sloppy. They need credit. They need to be seen. Petyr does not care about being seen. He only cares about winning. And that absence of ego makes him virtually undetectable until it is far too late. In real life, this manipulation looks like the person who always seems to know everyone's business, who is always somehow in the middle of every conflict, who appears to be helping but always ends up benefiting most from the situation. Okay, Blair Waldorf. And this one is personal because we did not just watch Blair. we wanted to be Blair. And the fact that we aspire to be her is actually one of the most important psychological points of this entire section. Blair's manipulation tactic is called social currency manipulation, using social status, inclusion, and exclusion as tools of control. Blair understands one thing better than almost any character ever written, that for most people, belonging is a deeper need than almost anything else, and she weaponizes that need with surgical precision. Blair controls through access. Being in her circle means everything. Being excluded from it is devastating, and she maintains that control by making everyone around her slightly uncertain about their position, just insecure enough to keep performing for her approval. She creates a hierarchy and then positions herself permanently at the top of it by making everyone else fight for proximity to her. And here is the psychological mechanism underneath that. She learned this behavior as a survival strategy. In a world where her mother's love was conditional on her perfection and her social position, Blair learned that power was the only reliable form of safety. Controlling the social environment meant never being at its mercy. Her manipulation is not cruelty for cruelty's sake. It is a deep, anxious person building the most elaborate possible fortress around herself. In real life, this looks like the friend who makes you feel special for being chosen by them, who occasionally reminds you subtly that the choosing could stop, who uses your need to belong to keep you loyal even when the friendship is not actually serving you. And we saved the most terrifying for last, Amy Dunne. And I need you to understand, everything we have talked about has been building to this character, because Amy Dunne is not just a manipulator, she is the manipulation masterclass. Amy's tactic is called DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. It is a psychological manipulation strategy where the manipulator flips the narrative so completely that they become the victim of the situation they created. And Amy does not just use DARVO, she architects it years in advance. She plants evidence, constructs timelines, performs grief so convincingly that an entire nation mourns for her while she is alive and planning her next move. What makes Amy so psychologically distinct from every other character on this list is the complete absence of impulsivity. Joe gets sloppy because his emotions overwhelm him. Peter occasionally miscalculates because humans are unpredictable. Blair reacts when her ego is wounded, but Amy never reacts. Every single thing she does, every smile, every tear, every perfectly timed revelation is the result of meticulous calculation. She is not living in the moment, she is directing it from 3 chapters ahead. And here's the most disturbing truth about Amy. She is a product of a world that told her who to be from birth. Cool girl. Perfect girl, the girl who never has needs of her own, and she took that performance and turned it into a weapon. Her manipulation is in some ways the most logical response to a lifetime of being told that her authentic self was not acceptable, which does not make it okay, but it makes it deeply human, I guess. Joe manipulated through love, Peter through information, Blair through belonging, and Amy through the story she made everyone believe. 4 tactics, 4 characters, and all of them worked on us almost completely. So here's what I want you to take from this video. Manipulation most of the times can look like someone who makes you feel chosen, someone who makes you feel good about yourself, someone who seems to know almost everything, someone whose approval you cannot stop seeking, someone who has written the story before you even knew you were in it. Knowing what it looks like is the only protection that you have, and now you know.